Then, who is Daniel?
Good question. Good question. I mean, I've never been someone who hunts for labels. So, yeah, I'm somebody who's been in the sailing industry for 25 years as a professional. I started off as a sailor. So I never thought I'd go into the management side. I wanted to go to sailboats. I wanted to race boats and mainly focus on offshore sailing.
Yeah.
And, very quickly got a passion for more of the solo sailing, the short-handed sailing.
Yeah.
And I teamed up with Alex Thompson. We made a connection through the Clipper race. So he did the Clipper race in 1998.
Wow.
And I was a nipper. I was there cleaning the toilets and painting floorboards. And he was 24, and he was the youngest person to ever go around the world. And I had a bit of an aspiration to try and beat that. So at 23, I got a job with Clipper to go and do the Clipper around the world race. And it's an amateur race, so you're taking, paying passengers.
Yeah.
And you're the only professional on board. And to be honest, to this day, it's still the hardest thing I ever did. I was 23 years old, and most of my crew were executives. They could afford to take a year out of work, afford to pay to go around the world. And normally the guys are in charge in a boardroom, and they're a 23-year-old trying to tell them how to sail and what to do and how to behave, because there was obviously personality clashes. So it was a real difficult thing to do, but a real big learning curve. I think I learned more from that race than I probably have than anything, and it set me up for more managerial side of sailing. I enjoyed that part of it. I still carried on sailing with Alex, and we started AT Racing together, and we managed to secure Hugo Boss, which we kept for 18 years. We sailed together. I did a lot of two-handed races with him, but very quickly the technicality of the IMOCA teams got more and more, and therefore the resource and the technical resource increased, and the team grew. We started off with 5 people. Within 5 years we were 20, then 30 and 40, and as we grew I ended up taking more of a office-based role as a technical director, and then eventually as a CEO and running the team for the last cycle, and that's why I'm kind of here.
And what was your link with the Spanish team? How can we get you applying all the knowledge you have from all the experience you said to have it here in Team Barcelona?
Well, the history of how I've ended up here goes back to a relationship I had with Stuart Hosford and Guillermo Altadil. That goes back to about 12 years, maybe 15 years, I can't remember. And it started here with the Barcelona World Race.
Whoa.
So I met Guillermo. We did the first edition of the Barcelona World Race in Hugo Boss. And he was on Australia Dam, but it was managed by an English company, by Ellen MacArthur's company. So we made a connection through that. And then I followed Guillermo, and then we ended up doing the next edition of the race, and Guillermo's boat Neutrogena ended up being managed by Five West, which was owned by Stuart Hosford and Alex Thompson. And so Guillermo came in as a skipper and worked with me. So I ran that campaign. So I ran the Neutrogena and the Boss campaign at the same time. Interesting. An eye-opener, but successful at the same time. Guillermo came second in that race and got around. It was a tough race. Hugo Boss got dismasted. And that was the start of the relationship. And when those guys started Sail Team BCN, I got a call and say, look, we're thinking of doing this. Would you come in and help set up the team, implement the process, and get us moving in the right direction? Which I was glad to do. I was glad to work with those guys again. And 12 months later, I'm still here, and it's been an enjoyable 12 months.
And how do you feel today? What do we have in Team Barcelona? What's the
I think this has been, for moving from an offshore world to more inshore racing, it's been a bit of an eye-opener, but it's been quite inspiring working with the athletes and the sailors. These guys are incredibly driven. They're driven for the sport, and they're driven to perform. Not to say you don't have that in the offshore world, but with these guys, they're young and they're hungry for it, and all they do is want to sail and learn how to go fast. And when they're not here with us, they're off doing an Olympic campaign, or they're off doing a nationals or the worlds. It doesn't stop. And I find them actually quite inspiring to work with. Both teams, with the women and the youth, they're very different. Women are slightly more experienced. But the energy is the same, and the desire to win is the same. And to be part of that and to help manage that and steer that in the right direction, it's an enjoyable experience.
In terms of level or competition level, how do you see our teams comparing to what do you see in another project do you have? Do you think we have top level teams in women and youth?
Yeah, without a doubt, the talent is there. The sailing talent is there. I think unfortunately, it's not a level board in terms of the preparation to get to the start of the race.
Okay.
So you've got two groups. You've got the groups that are associated to the teams, and then you've got what they're called the invited teams. We sit in the invited list, and therefore we don't have the connection to the bigger teams, which means you don't have the support of the coaches, the other sailors, and the biggest factor is you don't have a boat. So we're fortunate that we've been able to charter boats and use boats, but we won't go on the start line with the same amount of sailing hours and time on the water as the teams that are associated to the big teams. So it's hard to tell, but we'll start in a group, and our first call, we'll have 6 teams, same as us, invited. And we race together, and then the top 3 from our group, we meet the top 3 from the other group. So I feel confident with both the women and the youth. We've got the talent and the team to be able to complete that first process, and then we go in with the other teams. And then we're kind of in unknown territory. It's hard to tell, because some of these teams have had more time in the water than others. Is very close, so we don't know. It's not like everybody openly says we sailed X amount of hours. The closest gauge we have is a simulator. So our guys train hard as simulator and they race against the other teams. And so far, that's proven to actually be quite successful.
Yeah.
What happens on the water, I feel confident we'll win our groups, and then I hope we get into the final. But it'd be a big call today for anyone to say that could happen before we all line up against each other. But we're pretty hope.
So yeah. And how did the team manage that Guillermo leaving the team? Because as you said, he started the team, he was part of the beginning, and one day he said, okay, I'm out. How do you think the team has processed that, and how are you with this?
Yeah, I mean, it was a quick decision. I mean, Guillermo did a great job of starting the team. So he was the face. He's probably one of the most famous offshore Spanish sailor. And so it's great to have him as an ambassador, and also to help find the funding and help the initial selection process of the team. He's a big figure here in sailing, right? And so his departure happened quite quickly, but the runway left to get to the competition is quite short. So we had to very quickly change the team and change the structure. I think we had a very strong management team anyway. Therefore, we didn't need to bring in any other personalities. We just changed the structure of the team we had. Yeah. I've taken more of a CEO role, and the team around me have all kind of stepped up. So I think we're fine. We've got the right team. I think it was great to have Guillermo at the start of the process. But I think we're still strong as a team moving into the final stages of the competition.
And we have the roles of the coaches of the team that are so important as well in the management, that are Mónica Zon and Luis Brito, really good sailors as well, that have been helping in this coaching process, no?
Yeah, without a doubt, and they've been involved from day one. So the first process was the selection. We went through the selection process and narrowed that down at the start of this year, and then only really finalised it in the end of this month. And those two guys, both Monica and Lewis, have been pinnacle in that process. They support the sailors, they're analysing the sailors, they come back to us with, they rate the sailors, so together we can actually look and see how the guys are performing, and together make a collective decision which is based on actual data on the guys' performance. So I mean, Lewis and Monica have been excellent through that process.
Mm-hmm. We decided at the end the team to have 6 sailors in the women's team and 7 in the yacht team, but we could have 8 if we wanted. Why did we took this decision?
It wasn't something we decided at the start. It's something that kind of organically happened, and it came down to the sailors that we had that did the application and the trial process, and it ended up unbalanced, one being more than the other. But I think for us, it covers us with the sailors we've got. So we've got less in the women, but we felt the skill set in there was enough to carry us through the regatta, whether we had an injury or someone was ill or we needed to change someone out. We feel quite comfortable with that number, and it's the same with the youth. So I think we have all bases covered with the quality of sailors we have in both teams.
And now the big final decision is who will be on board, no? Because we can have 4 in youth and 4 in women. Has the team made that decision or not yet?
Yeah, but I'm not going to tell you.
Okay, then we will know in the future, no?
We'll know in the future. Yeah, the decision's made, but it's a long way to go. We've still got, we're 3 weeks away before the youth start sailing. Longer. I think we started with the women's in October. So, yes, today we said, look, we'll start the regatta tomorrow. You 4 will be in the seats. So we train that way now. But anything can happen in the next 3 weeks. So that's the beauty of being able to have good reserves. I don't feel today, if we were to trade out one guy today that we said was in the seat for one of the reserves, I don't feel like we'd be any weaker. So we've got the reserves we have are real strong guys. So, and it's really difficult to be able to do that, to say, when we came down to select the 4 that are in the boats, it wasn't because one was better than the other in the end. It was a real hard decision to make. So, they're all quite equal, for sure.
Okay. In thinking about managing expectations, do you think is it possible to invite the team to be fighting to win the youth or the women America's Cup?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, that's what when I talk to the guys, I say, we need to set out our expectations, and our expectation is that we can win it. We'll definitely, I'll be very confident we'll get through our group. We then mix with the other teams. We don't know until we get alongside them to see the racing, but you then end up in the final. It's one race.
Yeah.
So it's tough for anyone who ends up in that situation, because anything can happen in one race, right?
We saw it in SLGP, no? Kind of.
Seen it in SLGP. We saw it here in Villanova.
Yeah.
If there's light winds, if somebody just gets up in that foil first, they're doing 25 to 30 knots. The other guy's doing 8. It's kind of race over. So it's going to be tough, whoever ends up in that final, for it to be decided on one race. But if we're in there, for sure, we've definitely got a chance.
And there are some clues, and you mentioned one of them before, that are really, I have illusion thinking about that, because, for example, the youth in the simulator, they're like, they're really, really high levels.
Yeah.
I don't know how to apply these to the real boat, but
yeah, I think when we went sailing for the first time in the AC40, we realised that the simulator is a great tool.
Yeah.
But there's obviously some things you can't simulate. And for these guys, when I say these guys, I mean the type of sailors that are sailing on these boats, in the youth and the women, most of them come from a dinghy background at Olympic level or your high world level. And most of them are used to sailing by themselves or with one other person. So sailing with suddenly 4 people, sailing at high in the 30s to 40 knots, being able to communicate, go around a corner, have spray, you can't simulate that. So getting in the AC40 for us was critical. I think that does give us an advantage, because some teams haven't, of the invited teams. They haven't had the ability to sail yet. And if it was a simulator race today, I'd be extremely confident, because the guys are smashing it. The youth guys and the women team are excellent. And I think it does stead them in a good position moving forwards into regatta. I think, I think we've got a good opportunity to do well.
Tell me a little bit about Deus, because Nueva Ballester is a really, really young sailor that is in both teams, and youth and women, and I know that she's doing a really, really good deal. Tell me about his character.
Yeah, I mean, Nels is amazing. She's 19 years old. She's incredibly smart and obviously an incredibly good sailor. And because of her age, she's able to mix across both teams, and she's actually formed an amazing and important role between both teams. Technically, she's very clever, and she's become the glue of both of these teams that bring them together, and is able to transfer and share the data that both teams learn. But not only that, she's become more of a performance coach for both teams, because she gets it, and not everyone does get it. Like, I don't get it. I get in one of these boats and they're not sailing as I know it, right? There's zero feel. So if you're a natural sailor, you're in this boat, you got no idea if you're flying or not unless you look at a gauge. You got no feel in the helm, so it is literally like a PlayStation. You don't pull one single rope. You don't get off your seat.
Yeah.
Like, it's not sailing as we normally knew it, right? As we grew up with sailing. So the younger generation definitely get it quicker than the likes of myself and the older generation. And Nels really gets it. And I think she'll have, whatever happens in this regatta, she ends up sailing or not sailing, regardless, she'll come out of this as a real strong candidate for further sailing on the AC40s. And I think she's going to have an incredible career. I think she's a real big talent for the future for Spanish women's sailing.
One question, a practical question, because even myself, I don't know exactly how this works. The boats, the AC40, how will we compete with them in the competition? How can we train with them? Do we have the possibility to train in the boats outside this practice racing? Can you tell us a little bit how is the scenario with that?
Yeah, so each upon your entry, each team gets 4 days to train prior to the regatta. It's still not quite clear what that means. Like, we're asking the questions whether we'll actually get to line up against the other teams, which would be a nice thing and a sensible thing for everybody to do, or whether we get given the boats to just go and train. So it's controlled by America's Cup. So you pay your entry, you get your 4 days sailing, and then you get to race. So nobody has just one boat to race in. So the bigger teams have to bring a boat, and they get shared with the teams that are invited. So we're connected with Team France. So for the first stage, we'll sail on their boat. And then when you get through to the next stage, is unknown. So you might get to sail in your own boat, you might get to sail in the same boat you sailed in before, it might have a completely different boat.
Wow.
But each boat turns up on the day, one design, so they're all exactly the same. That's managed by the America's Cup technical team, and we're not allowed to touch it. Right? So we get given the boat, we get in the boat, we do the checks, we get towed out, and then you race. And then we come back, the boats then get checked over, they make sure they're all equal, and then they go out for the next day. So that's as much sailing as you get from your entry, and then beyond that, you've got the ability to try and team up with other teams or charter boats. That's the position we found ourselves in.
And we will have the opportunity to train in an AC40 after these practice days, or?
No, that'll be it. So it's practice days and straight into the regatta.
Okay.
I mean, we would like to still secure at least one more day for each team to sail. There's options to charter boats from some of the bigger teams, but it comes at quite a high cost. So that's Stuart Hosfer's job. Yeah, his job is to go and find the money, and he's working hard to try and raise a bit more sponsorship so we can get a few more days sailing. In any sailing, it comes down to time on the water. It's you generally run out of time on these type of projects. The nice thing with the AC40 is it's one design, so it's not a development race, it's a sailing race. And the more time you get, the better you're going to be. So it's pretty simple. So if we could secure another day, I think that'd be great. If we don't, we've got what we've got. We're working with the tools we have, which is the simulator. And we have to go there in the best way we can with the tools we have.
And how do you reflect the support that the team has, in terms of partners, of being here in Barcelona as a local team? How does the team feel with this role? That's amazing role that we have now as a local team in this party.
Yeah, no, I think it's amazing that we're here in Barcelona with a Spanish team. It wasn't until we got here in Barcelona we've been training and living in Sitges, which was an amazing port for us to train from. Sitges looked after us very well. We've now moved into Barcelona, and suddenly I feel a bit of responsibility. It's still the Spanish team, and we're here in Barcelona. It's I think it's great for the guys, for the sailors, to be here representing their country and to be in this amazing port. We've now got our team base, which is pretty much there. We're going to be open soon, and we're right next to the race village. So it's it definitely feels like we've got some responsibility because we're here, we're representing Spain. But it's nice. So it's nice to be the home team. And I think it's fantastic for the team themselves.
Okay, Ross, and what are the main partners that we have for this project?
So we've got a consortium, if you like, of partners. We've got CaixaBank, well-known bank, and everyone here in Spain and internationally knows who CaixaBank is. They've been great in terms of support. They came on the end of last year. Very supportive, and they've got a lot of presence here in Barcelona. So it's great to be partnered with them. We've got Foundation Zero, who's our sustainability partner. So behind me, there's 2 big orange containers. They've together with us, we've designed a system within those containers that allows our base to run on 0 emissions.
Mm-hmm.
So we're completely sustainable here. We don't plug into the grid, we don't plug into the water supply, and all our services come from those 2 orange boxes. So we've got a roof on top of our base here, which is full of solar panels that create the energy. Mm-hmm. We've got a battery system that harvests the energy for us. We've got a water system that's taking water from the harbour, desalinating, that allows us to use for all our normal day-to-day water. We've got another system that treats the water that we use. That goes back through to flush our toilets. And we've got all our cool air systems that run through the containers. All comes from this box. Whoa. We don't plug in. So that comes from Foundation Zero. I mean, they've been a great partner. They've been a fantastic project to work with those guys. And something that we're proud of and we want to showcase whilst we're here. Yes, open source, so all the data that we get from the container, people can view on a screen, so it shows how much power we're using and saving, etc.
Right.
Or you can go on the website and also see the data. And we hope the impact from it helps the marine industry, or the ports, or anyone to kind of look at how we manage this in the future. There's no reason why these things couldn't be in a port or a harbour or marina anywhere in the world. Yeah. But a boat comes up, plugs in, and uses everything on a more sustainable way. So, great partner and a great project. We've also got a city council, which is fantastic to have, and have their support, both in Barcelona, is amazing. And then Sitges, who was our kind of first supporting home, if you like, which has got an amazing facility that allowed us to the team to stay next to the base. We could have our base, we could have our boats, our training vessels. We had a GC32 to train and do the selection process on. Everything is in one place in Sitges, which you don't find very often. So it's an amazing place to be for our first kind of stage of our selection and training, and another great partner to have. So I think we're lucky to have these as our primary partners. We've also got other partners who support us, like Highfield and Musto and Sailproof and BWA, all fantastic to have their support in different areas.
Perfect. And do you think, knowing all the sailors and not knowing from inside of what's happening, that this project can be the seed to something bigger?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, these guys, for me, are the future of Spanish sailing. They're all incredibly good sailors, and we've gone through a selection process, so we've narrowed it down, and I think, without a doubt, these guys are some of the best. And foiling's here and it's staying, right? It's not going anywhere, and what these guys are learning today puts them well in front of everybody else in their generation. I think they'll all come out with this with great opportunities, and I think it puts them in a great place for their future career.
Nice. Then, well, Daniel, thank you very much for your time, and see you in the water.
Thank you. Cheers, Nacho.